Hey, everybody. Happy Sunday. We are live, and I am Gina from Advantage College Planning. And I'm really excited to talk with you all tonight about a very important topic as students are getting ready to start working on their college applications. And that is the topic of honors programs. University honors programs. So that's what we'll be talking about tonight. So you'll be able to go ahead and start thinking about your questions, thinking about what you might be wondering about with this topic. And then, yeah, we'll be able to go ahead and get started. I'm excited to hear what everybody's thinking about honors programs and wondering about. So university honors programs are a great thing to start thinking about right now because you still have a lot of time before students have to apply to college. The common application doesn't even open until August 1st. So we definitely have some time, but this is a great time as your students are narrowing down their lists and starting to think about which colleges they'll be applying to. They can start looking for additional opportunities that they want to take on within those colleges. So thinking about who will be on these campuses and what additional opportunities they will want to take on. So tonight we'll be talking about honors programs. And if you have any questions, you'll be able to put those in the chat. I'll be able to see your questions. So then I'll be able to answer those along the way. And it's also always really helpful if you can let me know where you're tuning in from or what year your students are. Those kinds of things are always really helpful. So then I'll know who's in the audience tonight. That's always really helpful for me to know so that I can make sure that I'm answering questions really to the audience and to the best of my ability to help guide you through this process. So again, tonight we'll be talking about honors programs and specifically university honors programs. Awesome. Great. So yeah, if you want to let me know, make sure the sound is working, make sure that you can hear me, give me a thumbs up, or you can put a note in the chat and just let me know that you can hear me okay, everything's coming through. And also I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. I am at Advantage College Planning here in the Raleigh Triangle area, but we do have franchise offices in lots of different locations all across the US, up in Maine, all the way down to Buffalo, and then further down to Orlando. So lots of Advantage College Planning professionals and experts here to help you no matter where you are in the country. So I know we might have people tuning in from everywhere. Awesome. So we've got some local people here today. Great. Apex Carey, welcome. So glad you're here. So again, today we're going to be talking about university honors programs. And so the main question that I get a lot from students when I'm talking about honors programs is, what is an honors program? What is that in college? Is it like taking honors classes like I'm doing in high school? And so it's really, I thought would be really helpful to start from there. So in college or in universities, there are smaller programs that are called university honors programs. Sometimes it's a college-wide honors program. Sometimes there's honors programs that are specific for different majors or different programs. Like there might be, for example, the business honors program and then the engineering honors program. Or what is also really common is just a general honors college within that university. So the honors program is going to be a separate program from the general university program. And that's going to be an opportunity for students to have classes that are going to be a little bit higher level of academic rigor than the general courses. And you'll see that a lot within the general education requirements. So for those of you who aren't, if you're a high school student and you're not completely familiar with the way college classes work, but most schools, you'll have about a 50-50 split, give or take. About half of the classes that you take towards completing your bachelor's degree will be towards something called general education or core requirements. And those are classes that the university or the college requires all students to take regardless of their major in order to fulfill the requirements for their degree. And those usually fall into categories of math, history, English, science, sometimes world language, different courses like that. And then the other half of your classes will fall within things that you need to take for your major. Okay. So when we're thinking about the honors college at a university, sometimes students would potentially then be taking honors level general education courses. So instead of taking the general English 101 freshman English class that the whole freshman class is taking, honors students might be taking an honors specific seminar-based class for their English requirement. Honors programs, because they are a smaller group within the university, are again smaller by nature. So if you have a really big university where maybe you're attending classes with 200 other people in a lecture hall, the honors class is going to be a smaller, more seminar style class with maybe, let's say, 20 students in the class. So that'd be very different. Honors classes tend to be a little bit more writing heavy, much more discussion based because they're a bit smaller. There are some benefits to attending an honors program. So honors programs, like I said, often have smaller classes. So if you're at a really big school, an honors program could give you an opportunity to create more of a smaller niche community, especially from the very beginning. Because of that smaller size, oftentimes students find it a little bit easier to create relationships with faculty because the honors faculty are specifically choosing to be involved in that program because they really want to be connecting with students. So sometimes students will find it easier to find a faculty mentor, someone to kind of really help guide them in addition to their advisors from their program, from their major that they would already have. A big benefit to students in honors programs is the opportunity for priority course registration. So when you get into college, you register for your classes in order of seniority, right? So a freshman has the lowest possible seniority. That means you're registering for your classes last. That means that those Friday 8 a.m. classes are probably going to be what you have left to choose from because the seniors and the juniors took all of those other more choice selections, right? But if you're in the honors program, that often comes with priority registration, which means that not only do you potentially have an opportunity to pick classes at the times that you want, you also might have a better chance to get classes with professors that you really want to take or some other type of selection that you might have. Honors colleges often, not always, but often come with specific housing for the honors students. So going back to that community idea, there are a lot of colleges that will have honors housing in a certain dormitory or residence hall, or maybe a certain floor of the residence hall is for the honors students. And at many colleges, if they do have honors housing, the honors housing tends to be a little bit nicer. Maybe if not all the dorms are air conditioned, the honors housing might have air conditioning, little benefits like that. So that's another benefit. And then being an honors student does come with that increased expectation of course rigor, but it also comes with benefits like events and workshops and attending maybe events with different speakers that are only specifically for the students in the honors program. There are opportunities for research. There could be study abroad trips and other excursions that are specifically for the honors students. There's a lot of benefits to being an honors student. But again, it does come with that additional level of academic rigor. And typically students in honors programs will complete some type of thesis or capstone program or something like that to culminate their honors experience on the way to graduation. So students will often ask me if applying to the honors program will increase their chances for admission to the university in general. And the flat answer to that is no. They are two completely separate processes. So when your student applies for admission, that admissions application is going to the Office of Admissions. And that will be reviewed by the admissions office, either by individual people or committee review, depending on how the office runs their process. If a student applies for the honors program, that application is going to come in at many different points in the process, depending on the school. So let me explain a little bit more about that. If your student wants to apply to the honors program, there's a few different timelines that could fall under. At some schools, your student would apply to the honors program when they are applying for admission to the university in general. So as they're completing their application in the common application, there may be a box that says, are you interested in applying to our university honors program? Yes or no. If the student checks yes, another box will open that says, here is the essay prompt, and here are the other requirements for applying to the honors program. And our deadline for applying to the honors program is the same deadline as applying for admission. So in that university's case, your student is applying for admission to both the university and the honors program at the same time. In that case, the whole application goes to the admissions office. Admissions does their thing, makes a decision, and if your student is admitted to that university, then the admissions office is going to pass on the honors application to a separate honors committee. So there's the admissions office, and then there's the honors committee. The honors committee is made up of a lot of different stakeholders on campus. Usually there's the head of the honors program, whichever faculty are involved with that. There might be some deans of some other departments that may be involved. Oftentimes there's a current honors student or two who also are giving their input on the decision, because the honors programs are a smaller community. So the students often in honors review are involved in that process. So that's the first type, is the student applies for the honors program at the same time that they're applying for admission. Then the next scenario is that your student applies for admission to the university. They send in their application ahead of the deadline, because we don't wait for deadlines. That's too stressful. We apply ahead of deadlines. And then once your student's application is received by the university will process their application and send them an email and say, thank you so much for applying. Here is the link to your application portal. Please create your application portal. That is how we will be communicating with you from here on out. And in your application portal, you will find the link to apply to our honors program and other scholarship opportunities. The deadline for the honors program is X. It could be 2 weeks to a month after the admissions deadline. So for example, at University X, the admissions deadline is November 1st. Your student needs to have their application in by November 1st. Your student applies by late October because they're working with us and they're a rock star and they have all their stuff done. They get their portal, they set up their portal, and then they see, okay, my honors application is due November 15th. So from between the deadlines, they have 2 weeks. So then they would work on the honors application and submit the honors application. And then the same process would ensue. Admissions reviews the application. If your student is admitted, they pass everything to the honors committee. Honors makes a decision. And then in those first two cases, it's often that your student will receive a decision both for admission and whether or not they've been admitted to the honors program around the same time. Okay. The third scenario is that your student applies for admission to the university and indicates that maybe they're interested in the honors program on the application, but they are not able to apply to the honors program until after they are admitted by that university. So student submits their application for November 1st, student receives an admissions decision by, let's say, December 15th. And when the admissions committee is reviewing that student's application, the admissions committee sees the student check the box and said he or she would like to be considered for the honors program. The admissions committee knows that the honors program has said this year we are looking for students with a minimum GPA and test score, if they submit it, of X and Y. This is what we're looking for. Any students who have these specific academic criteria, please invite them to apply to the honors program. So once your student gets their admissions decision in their application portal in mid-December for this university, as they're reading through their acceptance letter and they're all excited and there's lots of yelling, confetti and crying and it's all wonderful, make sure they read the whole thing, because there may be an invitation in there to apply to the honors program. And then that honors program will have a deadline of, let's say, January 30th, right? And then the student would later on hear information about their acceptance into the honors program. So applying to the college isn't going to have, or applying to the honors program isn't going to have any bearing on whether or not your student is admitted to that university. It's just about opening up another opportunity if it's one that your student wants to pursue at that individual university. So now we need to think about, okay, should I apply, right? Am I a good candidate? Should I apply to the honors program? I don't really know if this is something I want to do. Students that I work with tend to fall into two camps. Camp A is gung ho, yes, I'm applying for all the things. I don't even know if this is a good fit for me or not, but it exists as an opportunity, so I'm taking it, right? There's those students that are very, very much open to taking all the opportunities they can and then figuring out the rest later. And then there are a whole other bank of students in group B who are a bit reluctant and they are nervous and they feel like, wow, what if I sign up to do it and it's really hard and I don't want to do it anymore? Or what if I change my mind? What if I'm not good enough? They kind of start doubting themselves. And so with student group A, sometimes I need to get them to pump the brakes. And student group B, sometimes I need to get them to tap the gas, right? Every student's a little bit different, and every honors program is going to be a little bit different. There is not a one size fits all approach to the way that honors programs are run. Just like you're doing right now in your college search, you're working with your student or students, if you happen to be on here, you're working on finding schools that are a good fit for you, for the type of community you're looking for the level of academic rigor you're looking for the type of environment you want to be in, right? That same approach applies to all the other opportunities that are available on that college campus, including honors programs. So before you can even decide if you want to apply to an honors program or not, first you have to learn a little bit more about what that school offers for their honors program and start to do some research to figure out if it's a good fit for you personally. Some honors programs are going to be much more about like discussions and seminars and writing papers. And then other honors programs are going to be more about just taking a lot of really hard classes and writing a paper at the end, right? So there's a whole spectrum in the middle, right? But not one environment is the right fit for every single student. So the way that you can learn about these different honors programs is first start with their website. So go to the university, go to the honors page on that university's website, and start to learn a little bit more about what are the benefits of this program, what are their core beliefs of their honors program, what's their mission, what are they really trying to do, how are they structured. Also, when you're doing that research, you're probably going to start to see some schools are more transparent than others, but some quantitative data just to give you an idea of what the average honors student academic profile looks like at that school. So they'll give you kind of ranges. Like last year, the average honors student had a test score of X and a GPA of Y, right? So that gives you a little bit of an idea of where you stand. In general, if you just want rough numbers, I would say that a student could be a competitive applicant for an honors program if they are in, the upper 25 to 5%, right, of the academic standing of the students who are typically applying to that school or typically admitted to that school. So when you're looking at GPA ranges and test score ranges, when you're looking at that data of like the average admitted student at this school, if your stats are at the higher end of that range, then potentially that could put you in a good position for the honors program. You also could think about it from the perspective of balancing your list. So again, I know everybody right now is either finalizing, or with my students, we're either finalizing the college list, once we got the grades and maybe we got the grades from junior year, maybe we're taking one last SAT or ACT this summer, but we're pretty good with most of our lists, putting a couple, slight changes, but for the most part, we know what our game plan is. And so the big focus of conversation is always on making sure that you have a balanced list. You don't want to have a college list of all schools that you feel like you have a low chance of getting into, either because of your academic profile or because the school is a highly selective school. It's too risky, right? So if you are looking at applying to some schools that you have a high chance of being admitted to, then checking out their honors program is a great way to keep that list balanced. Maybe this is a school where your academic profile is a little bit higher than the average admitted student, and you do want to make sure you're being challenged. You do want to make sure you're going to be in an academic situation where you feel like you're with your peers, right? And people who are kind of at your level academically and the way that they want to learn. Well, then applying to the honors program could be a great fit then and take that school where it's a likely chance of admission and then add that extra layer of community and that extra layer of academic rigor. So those are some things to think about if you're trying to decide if you're going to apply or not to the program. To learn more, in addition to going to the website, another thing that I would recommend is check out the different opportunities for visiting that campus. There are a lot of schools that are offering honors. If you go to the honors page, you'll see that they'll offer honors specific campus tours, or they'll have certain days throughout the summer and fall that are information session days for the honors program, where you can go to campus, meet with the faculty from the honors program, chat with a couple of students, and then also do your campus tour. But that's a great way to learn more about something really specific that you're interested in that university, in addition to just doing the general campus tour that any prospective student is getting. If you are a rising senior and you're planning to attend some open houses this fall, which I would recommend that you do, colleges hold big open houses in the fall that are geared towards seniors. They're rolling out the red carpet. Everybody from offices all across campus are showing up. They all want to talk to you and get in front of you and convince you to, at least consider their school and consider adding their school to your list. At these big open house events, honors programs are typically represented, and usually they'll have a specific info session for students who are interested in the honors program. Again, where you can learn more about the program and hear from students who are in the program. So if you plan on attending any open houses this fall, which I would recommend doing, definitely check out the agenda for the day. And if there's an honors session and you're interested in learning more, make sure that you highlight going to that session. Or if you're going with your parent, you go to the honors session, and then your parent can go to, one of the other sessions, like on residence life or something. And then you meet up at lunch and you can share notes. But that's a great way to learn more about if the program is a good fit. So really, the bottom line, what I hope you take away from this tonight, is that honors programs are a really great opportunity for increased academic rigor and faculty connection on college campuses. But just like the rest of admissions, it is all about fit. They're not all the same. So don't be scared. Don't talk yourself out of taking an opportunity, but make sure that you're doing your research and make sure that you're choosing an opportunity that's really going to be the right fit for you. If you like what the honors program seems to be about, and you seem to have competitive numbers for that program, then go ahead and, put your application out there and see what happens. One other thing to note too is that if you decide not to apply freshman year, or if maybe you're not selected for the honors program coming in as a freshman, but you are still interested, or later you become interested in joining the honors program, at some schools, they will admit current students when they as sophomores. So that's another thing to look at. Is there an opportunity, if you change your mind and you don't do it coming in as a freshman, is there an opportunity to join the program starting your sophomore year? At some schools, the answer will be no. At some schools, the answer will be yes. And that's information that always is, or often is, posted right on the honors page on the website. So that's a general overview about honors programs, but I'm happy to answer any other questions that you have about honors colleges and honors programs at universities. And in the meantime, while you're thinking up your questions and putting those in the chat, I'll let you know that I will be back on August 6th. Yes, August 6th, Sunday, August 6th at 8 o'clock. And I'll be talking about how to write a strong why us essay. So supplemental essays are coming. We usually find out what all those supplemental essays for colleges will be when the Common Application launches on August 1st. And so a very common topic that many colleges ask students to write about is why us? Why our college? Why are we such a good fit for you? So we will be talking all about that and why it's so important to write a strong why us essay, and some tips for going about and doing that. Great. So if you found this helpful, then that's wonderful. I hope that you did. You can find more information from us on our website, advcp.com. Again, my name is Gina. And on our website, we have a lot of great resources. We have a fabulous podcast by my colleague Ariel. My colleague Jamie has a wonderful blog with really great resources. We also have short videos on there. You can sign up to be notified anytime that we're doing Facebook Live events or other webinars. And if you'd like to talk with us more in person about how we can support your student and your family through this process, you also can schedule a consultation with us through our website as well. Awesome. Great. All right. So if no one has any questions, then that means I answered all of them. So wonderful. Great. Oh, we have a question. Andrea, awesome. So in general, do colleges increase tuition slightly or have extra fees for honors colleges? Ooh, good question. So it depends. And that's where you need to look at the information on the college website. So at many schools, the honors college will be free to participate in, or sometimes students will get a slight scholarship or a stipend for their participation in the honors college. But there are some schools where participation in the honors college does require an additional fee for some of the amenities and resources that the students will have access to. So that is a really important thing to look at, especially if you're thinking about cost in the college process, like we all are. Yes, that's a good point. And to not assume that just because a student is admitted to the honors program does not mean that there's going to be a significant financial benefit that is coming with that. Again, at some schools, there is a bit of a financial benefit in terms of a small scholarship or a stipend, but typically the benefit of the honors college is more about the experience and less of a financial one. Really good question. Thank you for asking that. Awesome. Great. All right. Well, I hope you all have a wonderful night and a great week next week. And I look forward to seeing you all back here on the 6th. Have a great night. Bye.